In this section, we'll discuss how to prepare for the logical reasoning test. Logical reasoning is absolutely something you can develop and improve. By understanding and applying basic principles of logic, you can enhance your test performance. Logical reasoning is the ability to read, understand, and apply critical thinking skills to factual situations. Logical reasoning also is the ability to draw conclusions and make inferences and judgments.
Logical reasoning is an important skill for a Border Patrol agent. As an agent, you must know and apply laws, directives, policies, and regulations. You must make critical decisions that require superior reasoning skills. You may also be called upon to testify in court and present just the facts of a case, not what you speculate. Your training at the Border Patrol Academy will require you to read, understand, and apply detailed information. Although some information must be memorized, much of it is learned through independent reasoning. That's why analytical skills are so important. The Border Patrol test is designed to select applicants who can handle the demanding academic workload at the Border Patrol Academy and handle complex reasoning and decision-making situations on the job.
Let's go to the manual and walk through the topics covered by Section 2. Turn to the table of contents. You'll see that Section 2 has two parts. The first part explains the types of questions on the test. The second part contains a practice test. The practice test is followed by detailed explanations of correct and incorrect answers to the practice test questions. Those explanations help teach you the thought processes involved in solving the questions posed. Now, let's look at each topic of Section 2. First, go to the heading Preparing for Logical Reasoning Questions in Section 2. Follow along in your manual.
This test asks you to make logical conclusions based only on facts that you are given in various paragraphs. This is not a test of your knowledge about the job. It judges your ability to read and reason only on the basis of facts provided. In answering the questions, you must accept every fact in the paragraph as true. Even if you already know something about the topic in the paragraph, don't read anything else into it. When you answer the question, use only the information you're given. Here's a simple example. The facts given are these. All supervisors at the station are EMT certified. Based on that information, is it valid to conclude that everyone at the station who is EMT certified is a supervisor? No. There may be someone at the station who is EMT certified but is not a supervisor. For purposes of the question, assume that you know nothing except the facts you are given. The next topic is the lead-in, or basic question. It is a paragraph followed by a lead-in phrase and 5 response options. There are 2 kinds of lead-in phrases. The first kind will read like this. From the information given above, it can be validly concluded that your task is to select the one valid conclusion from the response options. The second kind of lead-in phrase will read like this. From the information given above, it cannot be validly concluded that your task is to select the one invalid conclusion from the response options. There are several key words used in logical reasoning questions that can help you determine whether a statement is valid or invalid. Some of the key words to watch for in a given statement are all, every, none, not, and some, which describe parts of a group. Also, watch for the words if and then, which describe situations. Read each sentence carefully and identify those key words before choosing an answer. Those are your clues to selecting the right answer. You can read more about the key words under the section in the manual titled Preparing for Logical Reasoning Questions. Let's look at an example of all and some statements. This example is in your manual, so read along with me. The true statement given here is, all the people at my party speak Spanish. From that statement, it is invalid to say, all the people who speak Spanish are at my party. However, it is valid to say, some people who speak Spanish are at my party. You can see the key words are important in figuring out the answer, so look for them carefully.
Let's get ready to work through a practice item together. Before you take the practice test, thoroughly review the section, Preparing for Logical Reasoning Questions, and study the examples for each of the key words. Pause the DVD and come back after your review.
Now that you've studied the section called Preparing for Logical Reasoning Questions, follow along in your manual with me and we'll talk about the Logical Reasoning Practice Test. You'll see several logical reasoning questions. Let's go through the first one together so I can point out some of the things we've talked about. The item reads like this. Often, crimes are characterized as either malum in se, inherently evil, or malum prohibitum, criminal because they are declared as offenses by a legislature. Murder is an example of the former. Failing to file a tax return illustrates the latter. Some jurisdictions no longer distinguish between crimes malum in se and malum prohibitum, although many still do. You have 5 response options that ask you to draw a valid conclusion from those facts that you've been given. The lead-in sentence is, from the information given above, it can be validly concluded that, and here are the 5 response options to choose from. A. Many jurisdictions no longer distinguish between crimes malum in se and malum prohibitum. This is an incorrect conclusion because the paragraph refers to some jurisdictions, not many. Notice the difference? Next, B. Some jurisdictions still distinguish between crimes malum in se and malum prohibitum. The paragraph referred to many. Some would be part of many, right? The next option, C. Some crimes characterized as malum in se are not inherently evil. Notice the not in that sentence, making it false. Next, D. Some crimes characterized as malum prohibitum are not declared by a legislature to be an offense. Again, the not in this statement makes it false. And lastly, option E. Sometimes failing to file a tax return is characterized as malum in se. This is incorrect because the paragraph says that failing to file a tax return is an example of malum prohibitum. What is the correct answer? We would choose B as our answer, referring to some jurisdictions. Let's look in the manual to confirm that our answer is correct and see what our reasoning should have been. Go to the answers and explanations that follow the practice items under the heading Analysis of Logical Reasoning Practice Test Questions. As you can see, yes, the correct answer is B. Some jurisdictions still distinguish between crimes malum in se and malum prohibitum. Why is B correct? Well, the last phrase in the last sentence tells us that many jurisdictions make the distinction between these two categories of crimes. Response B follows from that sentence, because if many jurisdictions make the distinction, some jurisdictions make the distinction. Do you follow the reasoning there? If you don't, stop the DVD and review that example until it makes sense to you, given what we've covered here. Here's a tip. When you take the rest of the practice test, don't cheat yourself and read the answers in the manual. Try out your logical reasoning skills on each practice item first. Read each of the response options. Think through the logic of whether each option is correct, and come up with the one you think is right. Then check your answers to the practice test. If you got any wrong, see where your reasoning was off, and go back over them. Pay attention to those key words I talked about, and find out why an answer is correct. Your effort will pay off in good results on the test.
Now it's time to take the practice test on your own. Stop the DVD now, complete the practice test, and check your answers with the answer guide. Return to the DVD when you've finished.